And that's what our energy centers can be a cue in. Like if we have, say, for instance, in the root, if we have some physical pain, if we have pain in our legs, pain in our feet, pain in our hips, pain in the lower back, this can be a very big indicator of what you were saying earlier, Colleen, is like trapped or blocked energy, right? And so what is trapped or blocked energy that stops that energy center from flowing freely with ease is an imprint left from a painful emotion. So emotions are what create blocks and stop the flow from just being effortless. And so since we're here to be feeling and emoting, it is very interesting that these energy centers can then become blocked, kind of shifting their frequency from the purest state. But that's, again, part of our soul journey is feeling those emotions to heal them. It's like having the experience so we can release it and then return to a state of healthy, high vibration.
When she smiles at you, she'll say, angels don't lie. Angels don't lie. Angels don't lie. No, no, angels don't lie. Angels don't lie. No, 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 no.
Hello, my loves. Welcome to this episode of Angels Don't Lie. I'm your host, Jeanne Street. I'm really excited today to be back with another Goddess You episode with my amazing team, Colleen and Sophia. Hello, ladies. Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you for having us back, Jeannie. It's a pleasure to be here.
So this is our third Goddess You interview, kind of. I think that's what we're flowing with. And we're going to be working with principles 7, 8, and 9.
So principle 7 is Chakra Basics. And we're working out of, obviously, the Goddess You book. And so I guess, Jeannie, maybe not everybody's familiar with chakras. So maybe just, their energy centers, but maybe you could go a little further into what they are. And
perfect place to start. So our energy centers, or chakras, they are commonly referred to, are spinning wheels, so to speak, energy wheels that live within inside us. These spaces are what moves the energy through our body, through our being, and then also sends the signal out from different parts of our body. And so that kind of is the overview of what a chakra is. And we have 7 main ones in our body, 7 main energy centers, starting with the root, which is at the base of the spine, and then also moving all the way up into the belly button region, then into the solar plexus region, just under our rib cage, moving into the heart center, and then our throat, coming into this center space, which is referred to as our third eye, our how we receive or see energy, how we perceive things. And then our crown, which is our connection to divine source energy, to our highest soul self. And it's where we flow in a rhythm of our soul's frequency, receiving that love from God. And that's kind of the gist. I mean, I think we can do a huge conversation on what chakras are, but in this particular book, this particular principle was just kind of bringing it to the point of like how to start your spiritual practice, or maybe even like if you're a little further advanced, maybe some things that you didn't know on how to land in those energy centers to expand them.
And you talk about like you talked about the flow and the spinning, and so maybe how different things they don't block the chakra. Well, sometimes they can block the chakra, I guess, but they slow them down sometimes. And so the flow of energy kind of gets blocked. And so you talk about in here clearing them, what that looks like. And I know you talk about meditation with them. And if, some people do Reiki, and obviously they use the chakras a lot for that. And so for me, how I started was visualizing each one, and then visualizing the color and visualizing them spinning in a healthy
Right.
way, and putting my hands on them. So like I was participating with that, but also asking the divine to come in and do that for me. And so just, it doesn't, I feel like if some people aren't experts or they're not Reiki trained, they kind of feel like they can't do anything to help balance their chakras. And I think it's nice to know that you can do basic things with, to
Yeah.
keep
So
that energy.
energy centers, I mean, really each religion or different places speak about these energy centers and what they refer to. So in Christianity, we talk about the 7 main sacraments. Then those would go in the beginning of life, which would be baptism. It's very interesting. So as you kind of study and research about what these energy centers are and how they kind of play a role in your well-being, which is the beginning of life, the root is the first one to develop. This is the base of who we are, right? We plant, the seed's been planted, we are born, and then we come in and we take root into the life, into the family. And so it's also the first space to get disrupted, because we know early on there are going to be things that are going to shift us away from the true identity of who we are. That's the journey of the soul, is to come in and have big experiences, to have things that are going to shift us and have us like learn and grow, to evolve, not to stop us, but they do end up stopping us because we follow each other, we follow energy. And that's what our energy centers can be a cue in. Like if we have, say for instance, in the root, if we have some physical pain, if we have pain in our legs, pain in our feet, pain in our hips, pain in the lower back, this can be a very big indicator of what you were saying earlier, Colleen, is like trapped or blocked energy, right? And so what is trapped or blocked energy that stops that energy center from flowing freely with ease is an imprint left from a painful emotion. So emotions are what create blocks and stop the flow from just being effortless. And so since we're here to be feeling and emoting, it is very interesting that these energy centers can then become blocked, kind of shifting their frequency from the purest state. But that's, again, part of our soul journey is feeling those emotions to heal them. It's like having the experience so we can release it and then return to a state of healthy, high vibration. But for most of us, we aren't taught this. And so we hold our emotions in these different ways, with maybe not realizing it. I don't want to feel that. I don't want to look at it. I don't want to go back. I don't know what I'm feeling. It doesn't make sense, especially when you're little and there's maybe some trauma, maybe some big experiences that you don't know how to work through. And that kind of disrupts that even like soul frequency. So if you can imagine that your soul vibrates or has its own rhythm like the ocean does, like you are your own wave, and that gets disrupted. So then you're not going to send like a loving, gentle, your soul signal out into the world. You're going to send a disrupted one. And that kind of starts the patterning of things coming into our life that are uncomfortable, things coming into our life to remind us to heal it. And when we aren't aware of that, we can get into a cycle of being stuck and living in a reversed type of energy. So our chakras can go in a forward motion where they're emoting out and they're flowing, free flowing into our field in front of us. We have a field of energy that surrounds us. We'll refer to that as the aura. And so this is how we receive energy and give energy to others, how we feel energy around others. And when it's kind of broken down over time, it's going to change its healthy vibrational color. So just like in the picture I just showed you, let me get back to that. Each energy center vibrates to a different color because energy vibrates. It's like music, right, Sophia? Like it has a
absolutely a frequency, a hum,
right.
a decibel level, a hertz level, right?
Right.
Each chakra has a different hertz. So if you want to do like some chakra clearing, there's amazing resources for each chakra. And what I found really interesting about what you talk about in this book is how each chakra vibrates to a note. As a
Yes.
musician, I never knew that the root chakra was C, and the second chakra, the sacral chakra, is D, and the solar plexus is E, and so on and so forth up. And in your angel healer training, you taught us about tuning forks, and you taught us about
Yes.
singing bowls. And that very day, I went and bought a tuning fork, and you talked about how
Which one
the
did you
tuning
get? I'm just curious. Which
C.
tuning fork? Oh, you guys say, okay.
So this one, the specific hertz is 128.
That's what I was looking for, the hertz.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you had talked about how the tuning forks that you were attracted to, you were just attracted to them. You knew that they
Right.
were right for you because you felt pulled to them. And so I went into the shop where you were teaching, had a little gift shop, and I went in and I just was so attracted to this very one. So then when I saw that the root is C, I was like, oh my gosh, I'm just going to continue to build.
Mm.
I'll start with the root at C, and now I'll just, keep building. And maybe the next one I get is not D, but I'll go to the heart, color green, F.
Right.
Yeah.
So I love that. And I think it's really important. Like I use tuning forks in my healing work. And I specifically I don't look for the note anymore. It's more like it draws to me. And then the megahertz really matter for me because it has to match. I don't know why numbers have always been a thing for me. So it has to match the message that's been coming to me. So for instance, a few years ago, I was on the 528. 528 megahertz is the love center. It's our opening for our giving and receiving. And so this particular tuning fork is something I use for, it's almost like universal for trauma and pain, but for opening all of the energy centers to the vibration of love will help someone return to the state of, I feel myself again. So we can become very numb in our energy centers and stop having an experience in parts of our body, start being like disassociated. It's a big conversation though.
It is a big conversation. Something that I really like about what you talk about is how each chakra, and you started to talk about this with the root, how it's associated with parts of our body. And I just really like how, in the sacral chakra, you talk about your lower abdomen, urinary tract, lower intestines, female, male organs that are all associated with that chakra. And your solar plexus going up, to the yellow, the solar plexus. I also like how you talk about the main issues that are associated with these chakras, like
Yes.
willpower, self-control, desire. It's crazy how they're so coexistent. They work together so much.
Yeah. And when we start to disassociate from different energy centers, not on purpose, and maybe it's just unawareness, we can see like how that can play a part and they can leak into each other. So say you're off in your root, in your first, in your base, which is going to be like, you can tend to get angry. You can tend to feel flighty. You can get anxious. It's a survival one. So that fight or flight can go off. So a lot of women, and I'm not leaving men out here, but a lot of women will have adrenal fatigue because their cortisol has been fighting and running because they've been running on the inside from all of those painful emotions and experiences. And that will have a huge effect on the heart center, because the heart center is all about vibrating to that frequency of receiving, right? Receiving and giving. And what happens when it's off balance is we'll overgive. And then then it turns into emotional balance is a little off. We'll start to feel, we can see some heart stuff, circulation, the thymus can be off. But really for me, the main issue around the heart then tends, to be like, can I receive? Because it feels really good to give, but can I just stop for a hot second to allow others in? That seems to be a really big issue when we have so much stuff in the beginning of our life. Our heart centers aren't able to receive. It's either like we have conditions over it. We don't realize that we've set ourselves up to kind of stay the same, to kind of feel empty.
Yeah, I just wanted to, on page 104, you talk about how you can clear your chakras for people, just to like leave people with a way that they can start to So we already talked about meditation and maybe visualizing, and you talked about the tuning forks, but you also mentioned the singing bowls. So any kind of music, dancing, prayer. You mentioned Reiki or energy healer work, so someone else to help you with it. Changing your diet, and also working with a spiritual medium or healer.
So anything that's going to produce a frequency shift is going to be, it's going to be love based. So a frequency shift is what we're looking for in that space, and to have our energy centers connected again and running. So we can do that, like that meditation of just seeing like everything plugged in, even if you don't know what they all are, almost just imagining this golden thread going from the soles of your feet and then rising up into your hip center and then connecting at the base of the spine and drawing that golden light all the way up this thread, all the way up to the crown. So you feel like you're being held. I also love a waterfall kind of feeling. I've done that meditation guided, but mostly for myself too. Like I did that in the beginning where I would feel that waterfall from heaven just come through the crown of the head and then flood my entire body, and just releasing what didn't make sense, because we have a tendency to want to follow and then make sense of the things that are happening, but we don't always have to know. We don't have to tell the story around it, especially when, our minds are busy. Chattery. The waterfall is just like, okay, it's going to be transformed. It's going to be like, just return to love. And it makes space, makes room.
I love that. You also, maybe just to wrap up this principle on page 105, where you people can do their own meditation. You kind of guide them through, but you say at the beginning to use the affirmation, I am complete in one with divine energy.
Ah, yes.
Yeah.
Right.
So start it and end it with that, which I think is
a prayer.
wonderful.
Which is just a prayer. And God is so great that he knows what you're doing, so he will assist you. So being open for that.
That's beautiful. I like how you gave the image of the waterfall. That's an image that I use a lot, because sometimes I'll imagine the chakras as, if you can imagine a river, a lot of things get lodged in the river. A tree fell down, leaves, even the foam that you can imagine builds up in river bends. That's what our chakras can sometimes feel like if you've got those blockages in your heart, or you've got that block in your willpower or your self-love. You might feel a block in those chakras. And the idea of that waterfall, of just that river or that golden thread coming up, you can imagine the river breaking free, letting that log go down the river, and that dam is broken and it flows again. That's what I like to imagine.
Let's just touch really quick on that. Like, why would we even care or want to? Because it creates room for your desires to come in. It creates space for more love to come and a peace within. So maybe there's not a big health issue, or maybe you're not unhappy. Maybe there's just room for more of what God has for you. And so that's why we want to return to that. Beautiful.
And when we clear up our chakras, we can start becoming healthy, wealthy, and wise, which is the next
Principle A.
Before we do this principle, because someone might be listening to this without having heard the previous podcasts that we went into the first principles, can we just real quick revisit those principles and talk about how so far on this journey they've all worked together to create this soul alignment? So we started with quieting the mind, and then can you talk about where we went from there, Jeannie, and how it's all led to healthy, wealthy, and wise?
Yeah, so we started with quieting the mind, because if we started with chakras first, we could see that our busy brain wouldn't even allow space for us to take that energy in. So quieting the mind just gives us that, oh, I have a hot second to pause and start to, explore. Then self-love, comes into this, okay, I am worthy. I am worthy. I am worthy. I am worthy. I am love. I am love. I am love. Self-love just returns us to the state of seeing ourselves from the point of God's eyes, seeing ourselves just in a new view rather than the same old conversations that are within. It changes a frequency. And then changing our reactions, it's just seeing where our personal power really lands, that we have the power to shift the frequency which we're living in, our personal power to say we get to choose how I'm going to show up, how I'm going to react if somebody is upsetting me, or how I'm going to show up when I feel insecure. Like changing our reactions is our superpower. Then we move into the energy basics, basically starting to understand that we are an energetic being having a physical experience. And when we return to that energetic being and expand that, our physical experience gets easier. And then we can step into healing our blocks, because now we understand that blocks are not permanent, made of cement. Like just because there's some things that have happened, just because maybe you regret something, it can be healed. Everything can be forgiven. Everything can be forgiven and renewed. And then how to let that go, because we can turn back into absorbing the old back in and repatterning ourselves to stay the same. And then we moved into the chakra basics. And now we're stepping into, ooh, this is kind of cool. If I balance my energy centers, maybe I can have like this flow of balance of the healthy and the wealthy and the wise.
You talk about how once you started putting all the previous principles into place, that you were taught yet another lesson. So it's like you were just explaining, like, you know, when you're ready, the teacher will, when the student's ready, the teacher will show up. And so you had to put all those other pieces in place, and then this one kind of showed up. And so you talked about 3 lessons that you were taught at that time. First one being, when you give a service away, it's not valued. The second one was, slow down and let the flow of the message have a chance to marinate into your life with its new energy. And the third one was, angels don't lie, so listen up.
Right. Yeah. And where we can be overgiving of ourselves and overgiving of our energy, that was something that played a part as, a big role in my life, because I was born with healing gifts. I was born with the ability to see pain and suffering around people and to feel that. And one of the things that we can tend to do is to give to others, maybe where it's not ready for them or even wanted by them. Like just because you can see it, feel it, communicate with it through your senses, doesn't mean that that person is ready for that next level healing. So I found myself over giving in areas with the services that I was offering. So in my healing sessions and classes I was teaching, I was just bringing people in and giving it for free. And it became very bright and shiny at the moment that this was depleting my energy. This was not the wise way to stand in these gifts. It was actually lowering the frequency of them. And then, moving into the second one, slow down and let the flow of the message have a chance to marinate into your life with what is with its new energy. Wow, this lesson too really has come through on many different levels and throughout my work, throughout my career, throughout my life. Because if you receive a message, we all are receiving those intuitive connections, and we can receive messages for other people as well and for ourselves. But if we don't pause, that message takes on a different meaning. Like just a very quick message comes in and you're like delivering it. It can leave like a low vibration imprint, because we have a tendency to go into fear more easily than we do in love. So it's taking me, it took me a lot of time to get into that place of not every message is meant to be delivered. Because you are receiving all the time, it doesn't mean that you're receiving on the highest and best. So I always say, check it before you wreck yourself. Like check and validate the message first, that it comes from God. Sit with it, hold it, allow it to expand, allow it time to make sense before you start talking, because we can get into a conversation and then like, wait, I didn't get that full message. And it kind of makes you look inexperienced, and it also can really hurt someone. So that pause is really great. And then that third one, which is, I think, my most important one that happened, was when I was so uncomfortable to deliver a message because I was worried about what people would think. I was worried about the person, I was working with, and I would feel like they were questioning me. And the angels were like, just tell them it's from us. And I was like, okay. So I did. And they would look at me and they would want to, I call it like serving back. They serve back. They're like, yeah, but, and then they were like, say this. And I was like, oh, well, angels don't lie. And so I would let it go. I would like disconnect it from my body instead of taking it back in. And that's one of the brilliant things that I teach in my programs, like even how to do it. It sounds really easy, but it's really not an easy thing, because when you're a sensitive soul, we are seeking a type of approval. We are seeking love. We are seeking a return a lot of times. And so, especially when it comes to energy exchange, how do we disconnect from it and separate ourselves from the message? It's not, you're the vessel, you're not the message. And so angels don't lie. Here it is.
At the end of you talking about these 3 lessons, you put in here a journal prompt to prompt the reader to start journaling and try to kind of find their own insight and intuition inside of themselves. And you ask, are you noticing the tone of guidance spirit is sending you? Are you noticing the tone of guidance spirit is sending you? So I think that this is a really great moment for anyone that's going through the soul alignment process to start to ask that question. I have done the practice of quieting my mind, and I've done the practice of discovering self-love and practicing self-love, and I'm learning about chakra basics. And so at this point, are you noticing the tone of spirit coming into your life now that you don't have so much that's, maybe denying it or pushing it away? I love that you asked this question.
Yeah, and it kind of brings us to understanding that there's, in the tone that it comes through, your body will sense it. So you'll use your senses to discern whether this is a feel good love vibration, or is it a fear? It's bringing me to test or repress or resist. Like, is it bringing up a negative side? And so that tone is very important.
And you say, spirit says, if you build it, they will come.
Yes.
And you say, yes, indeed. Spirit can be a bit sarcastic too.
Yeah. And what is building it? Building it is your practice. It's setting sacred space where you are pausing, where you are going into that wisdom that isn't of earth, it isn't of logic either, by the way. That's a really important. So we have to really know that fine line, return to, is that Shmigo?
Yeah, and then you break it down a little further on page 111. Healthy. Talking about health, just every choice matters. So whatever you put into your body, whatever you put on your body, whatever you surround your body with, and consumption doesn't just mean food and drink. It also means what you listen to, what you watch, what you read, conversations that you have, like all of it. And that you get to make a choice. You get to decide.
Yeah, healthy is you accessing your free will and realizing that's the actual gift.
Sometimes it feels like a mixture of a gift and a curse. It's almost like sometimes we have so much free will that we don't do smart things, but this keeps us on the right path.
Making a decision is hard, right? For a lot of people, making, well, what if I get it wrong? And so that's a return to love, right?
Then you talk about wealthy, and it says healthy wealth comes from following the wisdom of your soul.
Right.
So again, like not forcing, it's like you have to be aligned, and then it just feels more like flow than work. Like it just.
Right. I love the one quote here is, a rich man is a man who loves what he does. Because in our wealth, we physically think financial all the time. We're like, am I wealthy? I don't have any money in the bank account. How can I be healthy, wealthy, and wise when, whatever, I'm in this dead-end job? Or, we have to take a look at our wealth comes from the frequency in which we're standing. And to be that rich soul, to be in that space of, oh yeah, I'm beyond wealthy. It's the measure of your joy. not the measure of your bank account. And when we look at the measure of our joy versus that, we increase our joy, and guess what's going to happen? Other areas are going to fill up.
And then when you talk about whys on the same page, it's being in alignment with your soul self allows your inner guidance system to work. A wise choice comes from following your intuitive voice.
Not ignoring, which is such a common thing. Like, if I can look back in all those times that spirit was trying to guide me and my angels were supporting me, and I was like, no, thank you. No, I'd rather do it this hard way. I'm like, I could just hug myself and be like, come on, girl, it's so much easier this way.
Or the way other people are doing it, how we think we're supposed to do it too. And
well, that's the insecurity, right? Let's follow a leader. Let's learn this method. That's where we'll get into that logic side where it can lead us to an imbalance. Logic is really great as long as it falls into one of these healthy. Is it healthy? Is it smooth? Is it feel good? You know, is it going to bring me more joy? And that's how it's going to fill you. But that's kind of the issue when we deny our truth, right?
Yeah, and I love that about your work is that you teach and guide what worked for you, but it allows that free will or freedom to choose inside, each person's personal. I mean, everybody has their own way, and so it's not like Jeannie's way has to be do. It's like,
doesn't it? No, I'm just kidding.
But you teach people how to get in touch with their intuition so that they can expand their life in the way that their life is meant to, and you teach them to find their own gifts and talents that help support all of that. And when you're connecting with your soul alignment and you're discovering your gifts and talents instead of trying to be something that you're not. I remember going to church one time and I was like, whoa, this is so big. They were talking about how people try so hard to learn something that they're not good at instead of embracing what they are naturally good at, their natural gifts and talents, and just working with that. It's like, oh no, I don't know how to do that. I need to learn how to do that. And just like you said, making everything so much harder instead of just flowing in the ease of God gave me this gift and this talent and it's easy.
Well, I mean, I think this is great that it's circled here because this came up for me yesterday. I had a conversation with someone else and they were asking me, like, what have I done differently? And, to expand my work. And, one of the things that I said I did was the most beneficial was hiring my team, is like bringing people on that are better at the things that I was consuming my time with. And we can focus on learning and taking on all that energy. Like, I can do it all. Do I need to do it all? And do I do it good? And what I realized is I made more room to live. I made more space in my day to experience God and to be still. And I also, there's many, many layers to this, right? Because I'm receiving love, by having you guys on my team, by having that support. I'm receiving love because you guys are showing up and doing the things that you love to do and talking about the things. Like, we wouldn't be doing this here now, this interview, if it wasn't for Colleen's idea. And that's how we can really start to give and receive love in a different way, right? When we hone in on what can I let go of? Where can I bring in someone or hire someone or support another soul? And it's an equal exchange. It's not just, it's not one is better than the other, or it has nothing to do. It's an equal exchange because you're making room for more love to grow. And then that person's going to just share the love out with other people. And it just makes it so much easier. I think for me, like, I kept it so tight because I didn't know a different way. I didn't see that I was a stopping point of my own receiving. So I think that's a big thing.
You also talk about moving through grief in this chapter as well.
Mm-hmm.
You're grieving. I feel like the world is put on pause. Everything is put on pause, especially focusing on living in soul alignment, because you are very distracted by your own grief. And you say grief is, it's a noun, it's deep sorrow, especially caused by someone's death. And grief, as you were shown by spirit, is energetic. And so what do you offer someone to, still remain healthy, wealthy, and wise when they're under immense grief?
It reminds me too of trauma, because grief, trauma, and pain, any type of energy that we're going to move through, can be a stopping point. All energetic, all have a vibration to them. And it is true, like life will center around whatever's happening, and then everything gets let go of. Colleen and I were talking about this earlier, because this is the way our lives are. They ebb and flow, and it seems like, okay, everything goes the same for a long time, and then there's this stopping point. A parent is ill, somebody has passed away, something happens with one of our children, or in our personal life, maybe we have a health scare. And so now it's time to pause and to go inward and spend time in prayer. And what can become an unhealthy flow is when fear comes in and tells us we're bad, or we're wrong, or we're not doing it right, or we feel guilty, when we start shaming ourselves or others, and we get lost in it. And that's where a block can come in.
In this chapter, you say a healthy outside starts from the inside. So, yeah.
Yeah, because we can put on appearances, right? Those people that are like, you're like, how are you? Oh, I'm great. I'm good. And we can do that too. We can just say we're good when we're really falling apart. We can say, no, no, no. And what that does is it stops us from receiving, because we're basically saying, no, thank you. I don't need your hug. I don't need your care. I don't need I don't need you to make me a meal. No, 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 no. And then we're lonely and we're isolated, and we're putting conditions on the receiving. We're not allowing someone to do their part and shine their light in our life. And that helps them to grieve too.
I love how your, the medium readings that you offer really help people process through their grief too. Sometimes they gain wisdom from their loved one that's passed on, that has like a feeling of closure, or if they feel grief because they feel like there's something left unsaid between them or something like that, like you can offer them some assurance there, and it really helps them to move forward in their life also.
I think that's one of the reasons why my angels had me include the readings in the book too. And it's so funny, because as you were talking about that, I was just reading this. I forgot that I included Pat's story. And I was like, it was such a beautiful moment. And I'm taken right back to that experience of feeling her husband, Tim, come through, like, and what that did for her. And that was so long ago, but just remembering that and seeing that, it changed the way she went forward in her work. It shifted the vibration. So she remembered she wasn't alone in that deep despair. Yeah. And these stories reconnect us to things that we've experienced or our friends. So it's really amazing.
I can speak personally for myself right now, because I'm in a grief process with my dad, who's sick, and he's transitioning, and we don't know the time, but he's terminal, and it could be short, it could be, I don't know, weeks, months, whatever. But what I've noticed, when he was home before he went back into the hospital, I was like really holding it together, trying to just not be strong so much, but just bring a sense of peace and calm, so that they could feel peace and calm, and it felt fine. It didn't feel like I was forcing anything or whatever. And then I think I texted Sophia one day on Thursday, like the Thursday of that week, and I just, all of a sudden, my emotions just came to the surface, and I was like, I am not doing okay today. So it's funny how that just like, yeah. And she's like, what do you, check in, what do you need to do for yourself? And I think I just need to cry. Like, I just feel like I just need to cry. And she's like, go for it. Go for it. I'm there for you. And I did. And it felt better. And, and then I could, move through each day as I need to. But what I noticed after that was I'm allowing we're laughing, we're crying, we're doing everything together, and I'm just allowing it, and it feels so good to not have to hold it in. And he's doing it, and everybody's doing it. Like, he's calling people. It's really amazing what he's doing. Like FaceTiming people, calling people, and telling them how special they are to him, and that he's basically saying goodbye. Like, I don't know how long I have, and I just want to let you know how special you are to me. And it's just such an amazing gift, sad and beautiful and joyous. And he talked to a friend he's had since 8th grade. My dad is 76 the other day, and just beautiful. So I'm so happy for myself. I think I texted somebody the other day, like the most important person to accept my feelings is me, and I am doing it. And it feels so good. It really does. And I can be here today. You guys were very kind and worried about me, but it's like I can do this and that, not at the same time. And if I can't, then I'll let you know. And you guys are very supportive of all of it. But it's like I can be all of who I am, and I can show up different in every moment, and it's all awesome.
I'm so happy that you kind of brought it up, because I feel like we were almost like tippy-toeing around it. And I think it's a good experience. Like, you're the one in grief. And I feel like the other thing that will happen when people are going through big experiences, we might pull away and not know what to say, or we might not text them or call them or expect them to show up for work. And that was our conversation before we decided to have the call today was, Colleen can make that decision to say, like, here, this is what I'm feeling. And, we can hold that sacred space to say, like, we're ready or we're not, like, whatever you choose. And that's an important role that we can show up in those relationships, in, how to help someone through grief. It's not about stepping on their toes, but the wisdom is to say the nice things, to not be afraid, to say, like, I can't imagine what you're going through, but I'm here to listen. Do you want to tell me? And that's kind of what I was allowing for Denise back when she lost Spencer. It was a space where the angels kept saying, like, ask her the hard questions. And I was like, fine, I'll ask her the hard questions. And I did. And she's like, I really appreciate you allowing me to express, what it was like those last days with Spencer, and not to stop me or, whatever, just to have it. And
yeah, because it's painful to re-experience them, to think about them sometimes, but it's so hard to explain. It's so equally beautiful and painful at the same time. And
yes.
Right, because it's almost like that. I think I spoke about that bittersweet word. Like, it's like nothing is permanent. Everything is fleeting. Like, all of our precious, joyous moments, they're fleeting. They don't last forever. Our sad moments don't last forever either. We get to have both. And this is very personal to me right now. It's like, I love that I can embrace both of those things right now. It just feels amazing.
Yeah.
I think, other than wise, on the healthy, wealthy, and wise, we can touch on the wise a little bit more. And that was basically aligning with your soul self, like feeding into the God wisdom and connecting with that internal wisdom. And but it takes something. It takes, like, adding all the principles up and practicing them on a regular basis and kind of letting them ebb and flow through our life so that we can stay connected. And that's the whole purpose. That's why the subtitle of the book is Principles for Living in Soul Alignment.
I also feel like I want to bring in the word, a little, the courage, and, the courage to be vulnerable, the courage to, be brave and show up for other people when it's uncomfortable in our own body. Like, that is a really big thing. The courage to be uncomfortable. The next section in here is like about healthy. It's about, shifting our vibration in our health. It talks about food and for our optimal health. And can we be brave? Can we be vulnerable to take a really good look at the things that might not be serving our physical body? And are we just taking in things that are just it's just become habit or comfortable because we like that feeling. But are we ready to be a little uncomfortable to say, let's play with this. Let's see what vibration of this food looks like and what works and pairs well with my body. And it's not a diet, it's a lifestyle that works for you, for your expansion. We kind of went from, grief into health, but it's very interesting because when we are grieving, it's one of the number one things that we need support with is that healthy vibration of, am I nurturing my body? Am I taking pause to meditate and to serve my body the food that it needs? Because, what are we going to do if our loved one's in the hospital? We're going to eat fast food. We're going to get the hospital food. And can we pause there to say, you know what, that salad or that salmon with vegetables definitely has a different vibration. And let me see if I can do that here.
It's so funny that you're saying that, because literally I have been craving pizza.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I can't even tell you the last time I've ever had pizza because I don't eat dairy or gluten. So it would be the worst thing ever for me to have. But my body, like, all of a sudden, I actually bought a slice of pizza for each of my girls when I picked them up at the airport yesterday because I'm craving it. But
you're craving it.
But thankfully, I've gotten myself to a healthier place with food and knowing what serves me and what doesn't. And so I'm not, even though I'm craving it, I'm not doing it. So
right. So to wrap up this chapter of healthy, wealthy, and wise, we're just going to touch on them. Healthy. A healthy outside starts from the inside, as Sophia said. And that's a beautiful quote. I love that one. Wealthy. Acknowledge the good that you already have in your life. This is the foundation for all abundance. And I think that's really powerful. That's an Eckhart Tolle quote. I love that, acknowledging what you already have and returning to that joy. And then wise. Knowledge is learning without a limit. And knowledge is learning without a limit, because so logic really wants to box us in. So that's really big. It's really big. And now we're going to move forward. We're going to go into
keeping calm.
Totally thought of keeping calm when you were talking, Colleen, because Jeanne, you talk about how these big events were happening, at the same time for you, and how spirit taught you to go above the event or situation, to use a bird's eye view. Along with the other principles and tools, you could raise your vision out of the event's energy to see where your energy would best be used at the same time. Keep your energy calm. Keeping calm. And that's so important, especially when you're grieving or you're going through a huge event, or even just small moments. Keeping calm, and then you say, and carry the flock on.
Right. I call these my big threes and little threes. And I think we can definitely reflect on these. I think, Colleen, you can too, right in this moment. And because life ebbs and flows, and there'll be like these big, huge events. And then there will be smaller events. I'll go to 2011, the big events where our daughter got married, our son got married, 2 weddings in 1 year. And then our first grandchild was born. And then all of these other smaller things were going on. I closed my shoe store, which is a very emotional thing. It was a really big decision. Our ex-son-in-law was, not that then. He went overseas. He went to Afghanistan. He was in the war, and our son graduated from high school. So there was busy that entire year. It went from one thing to the next thing, to the next thing, and the next thing. And you think about what comes with weddings. It comes with showers, and it comes with, family and travel and people coming in from out of town. So there were so many things where it could very easily uproot you. And at any given time, we can kind of take a look at that for ourselves and see, like, am I being uprooted? Do I feel like I'm not even present in this moment because I'm thinking about what's coming next?
That is massive. We've been talking a lot about that too, in learning the lessons of my dad's life, because he's reflecting on his entire life. And one of the amazing happy things is my daughter made this beautiful, what it's like. My dad's a pop-up and a great pop-up. So she made this beautiful presentation for him of all special moments and little special things that they did with all of his grandchildren. There's 12 of them with the greats, and not even including the spouses, but with the grands and the greats. And we talked about, like, when we look back on our lives and we remember good memories, it's because we were present, to capture them. They didn't have to be vacations. They didn't have to be weddings. They could be precious moments. I always, those little statues that they used to make, but I love that because they are precious. They're, like we talked about before, they're very fleeting. So, but you have to be present to witness them. Because if you're off somewhere else, it's like, be where your butt is. Because if you're not, you're going to miss it. You're going to miss that tiny, fleeting, precious gift right in front of you. So you're so true.
When my dear friend Jody was at the end of her life, it could have been very easy to check out and to be in the chaos of what was happening in her family, what was happening over here, blah, 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 blah. And, you know, I got my calm on by staying in my body, which was not an easy task for myself, but I did these things. I did, you know, I stayed away from alcohol. I was cycle breathing, and I'll go in flows for myself of like, where I'll take those breaks from having any kind of wine or whatnot, especially when my body doesn't feel like it's in its right frequency, because that helps me to get back into that rhythm, that natural rhythm state. You know, the exercise is a huge deal. It helps me to maintain my frequency. The foods that match my body, match my soul. This is how I get my calm on. And it's how I could be present for her. She chose me to be there when she passed. And so, very importantly, like that's a big thing to kind of, it's a big experience to take on. And I just entered it fully aware that I was meant to be there, and I was going to do my part, and I was going to hold space for her. It wasn't about me. But when we are out of our balance, things become about us instead of being in the moment and being present for love, right? It can very easily take that on.
Yeah, when you are crazy, life brings more crazy. Panic leads to the freak state of mind, but calm is your bliss state. When you're calm, life flows so sweetly. Yes. Even like you were just saying, Colleen, you're in a massive moment where you could be so grief-ridden, and you could go to that freak state every moment of the day, but instead you're choosing to stay calm, and you're choosing, you know, that calm state, which is allowing your life to flow in a sweet kind of way.
It is, and it's allowing me to witness through the sadness, or with the sadness, the beautiful joy and the beautiful moments and the love.
And because if you feel the sad now, that's how you won't get stuck in it. It's when we don't feel it that it keeps repeating and repeating, and then we have regret, and then we have sorrow, and then we look at the situation and go, I wish I had done this, or I had so I think that's a really beautiful thing, to see you being present in this hard thing, like to see you being present, to hold that sacred space on the outside where, you know, that's what Sophie and I feel like we're doing our part by this, like loving you, by like filling in the blanks and praying for you and doing our own thing on this side, and holding that, like, okay, when she's ready, she'll come in. And yeah, it's really big.
Allowing sadness is so healing.
Mm-hmm.
There was a moment that my spouse and I had where we received, you know, really just sad news. And I think old us would have immediately gotten to work, started planning everything. How are we going to, you know, work around this? How are we going to make this happen? We could have easily freaked out. Our whole life plan is, you know, on its head. But instead, we knew we were raw, and we said, can we just be sad for today? And it was a Sunday, so just for today, we're going to be sad. And, you know, friends were already trying to give advice, and we were able to kind of set that boundary that said, we're sad today. We don't need your advice today. We're not going to try to crawl out of this until tomorrow. So we gave ourselves a full 24 hours to just grief over this news. And then the following day, you know, we kind of checked in with one another. Did we get it all out? And it wasn't, of course, obviously we didn't get it all out, but we just didn't rush to the planning mode. We didn't rush to try to, get out of the sadness, which I think a lot of people do. We don't like to feel sad. We don't want to feel sad. And so we rush to try to fix it. You can't fix sadness. You have to feel it, let it flow, and then it will move on organically. You can't force it.
That's really beautiful. I love that, and that you could hold that space. I also really like, it's a really good reflection on the outside. Just because you see someone being uncomfortable, we'll go back to that. It's not up to you to fix it. It's up to you to hold space for them to do what they need to do to heal it. And we do want to offer those words of comfort and ease, but is it really for that person, or is it for us? That's where you got to sit with it and hold it. That gets that calm on. Keep that calm.
You say that, or Theodore Vale says, real difficulties can be overcome. It's only the imaginary ones that are unconquerable.
Yes.
That's so true, because what event in your life have you not overcome?
Right. And what and is Shmigo located there? Is fear holding you in that? Because I work with this really amazing woman who I just adored. She's a therapist, and she's done tons of different types of work and hypnotherapy, and she's studied the brain and rewiring the brain and neuroscience and all that. And she was saying there's actual science about our memories. Like, though we have a childhood trauma, what happens is the imprint of that is like beautiful right there. You know what happened, it's there. But then over time, that incident actually grows. It's like the game of telephone, she said. When we were kids and you have the thing, or you'd lean up and you'd whisper a secret and you'd pass it around, and then it came back and didn't even look the same, didn't sound the same. She said that's what happens with our childhood memories, and our pain is they grow in volume and stories and things. And because we have other life experiences and we don't realize that this is what's happening, but we layer them into this one thing, and it isn't what really happened, because now it's taken on a whole life of its own. So when we remove the energy or the toxicity of going back to it and we rewire the brain, we can feel what needed to be felt at that time to heal it and not replay it. So I think that's kind of a really cool thing.
Well, what's the flocking homework?
Hey, the flocking homework is always get that journal out. The homework for me always returns to putting your pen to your paper, getting out of your head into your body. It's cycle breathing. It's being present in your breath. Can you hold it for the count of 5? Can you release it to the count of 5? Can you pause for 5? It's take a little time to travel. Remember, and this a little time travel. It's like going back in time when you felt calm. It's remembering that, because when we remember the good and we do that every day, that good will grow. When we remember the pain grows. So you see, it's the same thing. So we want to remember a time when we had some calm, when we felt really good, and that's what will keep us going. And then we detail it out. We use that Nancy Drew effect. Where were you? How did you feel? What do you notice? Can you feel your body at that time? And what does that feel like? And can you smell? You run through your senses, and we call this stacking the senses. Can you smell anything, feel anything, hear anything, see anything? And this gets you into your physical body instead of being disassociated. And then brings you into like, what's different now? And come back out of that. How can you find that calm now? Right? And you've grown. Like, this is now like, and how have you grown? How can you return to this over and over again?
I feel like the simplest thing for me is to take a deep breath and put my hands on my heart.
Yeah. Yes. Like return. And there's actual, there's a method called the butterfly tapping. This is a beautiful reminder, one, to stay very present in our body, and it can help us to breathe easier when we have so much going on. And it just is love, just that gentle tapping on our chest can return us to a sense of peace. Breathe, breathe, breathe. Wow, this has been good. I think we covered like so much, right?
Really did. We really did. Well, this is like the hunk of the book, right?
Yeah.
These principles, 6, 7, 8, 9, you're 3/4 of the way through the book. So it's definitely, you're starting to get into the meat and potatoes.
There you go. And then we'll do our next one. We'll do the finish line, the grand, finish line, which is yummy.
Yep. Yeah. So stay
Well,
tuned for that.
thank you, ladies, for another amazing interview. I'd like to invite our listeners to add any comments or questions that you have underneath in the comment section so that we can return to you. This is what we were hoping for this series, is to have an interaction with you. So definitely add your questions and comments and concerns, and we will all be on there to answer and get back to you. And I hope you have a beautiful day. God bless you, Colleen. You're in our prayers. We're holding you there. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And you guys, you know what I know, because angels don't lie. God bless you guys.